I'm Sumi Somaskanda in Washington, and this is BBC World News America. The King of Jordan meets with President Biden for talks to broker peace in the Israel-Gaza war as King Abdullah calls for an immediate ceasefire. Israel rescues 2 of its hostages in a raid on the Gazan city of Rafah, but leaves dozens of civilians dead. And a landmark UN report shows the world's migratory species in decline, with many at risk of extinction. Welcome to World News America. U.S. President Joe Biden welcomed King Abdullah of Jordan to the White House on Monday for talks amid the ongoing war in the Middle East. In a brief statement after their meeting, King Abdullah came out strong, calling for an immediate end to the conflict between Israel and Hamas. And President Biden announced that the U.S. is working on a hostage deal that would lead to at least a 6-week pause in fighting between Israel and Hamas. Our North America correspondent, Nomia Iqbal, thank you very much for that update. We mentioned the fighting is ongoing. Well, dozens of Palestinians are dead after an overnight raid in Rafah by Israeli forces. That raid led to the rescue of 2 hostages being held by Hamas. But Hamas is claiming 3 additional Israeli hostages were killed in the overnight strikes. Hamas is designated a terror organization by many governments, including the U.S. and UK. And it comes as the UN and some Israeli allies are calling for Israel to not attack Rafah. The city of Rafah lies in the south of the Gaza Strip on the border with Egypt. It's believed that around 1.5 million Palestinians are currently sheltering there. But Israel claims Rafah is the last stronghold for Hamas fighters and say it is key to securing the release of the remaining hostages in Gaza. Well, President Biden today condemned the fighting there. As Rafah braces for a possible Israeli ground operation, our correspondent Lucy Williamson sent this report and a warning. It contains some upsetting images. And joining us now is a former Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs, Ambassador David Hale. He served previously as Ambassador to Jordan, also Special Envoy for Middle East Peace. Ambassador, very good to have you with us. We saw President Biden again saying today that he doesn't want to see an operation in Rafah unless there is a plan in place to protect civilians and to evacuate civilians safely. To what extent do you think Israel is listening to the U.S. and its allies on this question? And very difficult negotiations indeed. All right, Ambassador, really great to get your take on the story tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, the NATO Secretary General says comments by former U.S. President Donald Trump could undermine security and put soldiers at risk. Jens Stoltenberg issued that rebuke after Mr. Trump said he would encourage Russia to attack members of the alliance who don't pay their dues. Now, NATO countries don't actually pay dues. They have, however, committed to spend 2% of their GDP or economic output on defense, and not all of them do. At a campaign rally in South Carolina on Saturday, Mr. Trump said he would not defend NATO members who don't meet those obligations. Instead, he said he would encourage Russia to, quote, do whatever the hell they want to NATO countries that haven't invested enough in their militaries. And the controversy comes as Ukraine faces difficulties mounting with the 2nd anniversary of Vladimir Putin's invasion approaching. Now, back in 2022, Ukrainians rushed to sign up to fight. A whole nation was mobilized and Western aid and weapons poured in. 2 years later, there's an ammunition shortage and problems recruiting soldiers. Our Eastern Europe correspondent Sarah Rainsford reports on Ukraine's struggle to find soldiers for the front line. The BBC was granted rare access to a mega prison in El Salvador just days after its president, Nayib Bukele, was reelected. The mega prison, known as the Terrorism Confinement Center, is becoming a symbol of the president's controversial war against gang violence. It is the largest maximum security facility in Latin America, and the government says it can hold up to 40,000 inmates and has no outside recreational space. A recent Human Rights Watch report criticized widespread human rights violations, including mass arbitrary detention and ill treatment. Leara Ventas reports. Efforts to form a government in Pakistan are continuing after tightly contested elections left no single party with the required majority. The 2nd and 3rd largest blocs, led by Nawaz Sharif and Bilawal Bhutto, are in formal negotiations on forming a coalition. Meetings continue today. Pakistan faces weeks of political uncertainty, with independent candidates loyal to the jailed former Prime Minister Imran Khan securing more seats than any other party. They're considering legal challenges to many results. They've lodged complaints in a number of constituencies where Mr. Khan's supporters didn't win, but alleged that the vote was rigged. Former President Donald Trump is asking the U.S. Supreme Court to intervene over his claim that he is immune from charges that he tried to subvert the 2020 election. Mr. Trump claimed in his election interference case that he could not be tried for acts that he said fell within his duties as president. A federal appeals court rejected Trump's argument, so he asked the top court to pause the ruling while he pursues an appeal. He also indicated that he may request an en banc hearing, requesting a stay so that he could also ask all of the judges on circuit court to rehear the case. Migratory species from monarch butterflies to African penguins play a crucial role in protecting the Earth's habitats. But a landmark report from the United Nations says the extinction risk of the most vulnerable species is on the rise. According to the Convention on the Conservation of Migratory Species of Wild Animals, nearly half of those migratory species are showing population declines. It also found that more than 1/5 of them are facing extinction. That includes nearly all risk fish. Now, the report concluded that human actions such as habitat destruction and climate change is to blame. And the executive director of the UN's Environment Program explained to the BBC how we got here and what this means for biodiversity. All right, that wraps up our show. Remember, you can find more on all the day's news on our website, bbc.com/news. Plus, to see what we're working on at any time, make sure to check us out on your favorite social media site. I'm Sumi Somaskanda in Washington. Thank you for watching World News America.
Hello there, let's take a brief look at the weather forecast for Europe as we head through the next few days.